Hello people of the internet, this is Kaiju Noir, here to make my first response to a video I was tagged in. A while ago, Matt from Monstrosities, a tokusatsu vlog channel, tagged my friend D Man1954 in a video where he provided 4 Godzilla YouTubers with 5 questions in an effort to build the tokusatsu online community. As a result, D Man ended up tagging me with 5 questions of his own. So let's get to them.
Number 1. What is your most underrated Godzilla movie?
Without a doubt, it's Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, a fun island adventure film that is admittedly low on the monster action, but is still filled to the brim with bright and colorful scenery, gun-toting terrorists, fun and relatable protagonists, and an energetic score that evokes the tropical setting of the film. On top of that, when we do get to see Godzilla and Ebra clash, it's pulled off in a very ambitious way, as we rarely see underwater battles in tokusatsu cinema. If you want to know my full thoughts on the film, I made a review way back when that I'll plug at the end of this video.
Number 2. What is the worst kaiju movie you have ever seen?
It would probably have to be Gamera the Super Monster, a movie that despicably tricked moviegoers back in 1980 into thinking that they were going to see an all-new adventure starring a ton of giant monsters. But what they got instead was nothing but 10 to 15-year-old outdated stock footage along with an embarrassingly and insultingly simplistic story that manages to rip off elements from both Superman and Star Wars. And that's when it's not trying to advertise other pieces of Japanese media. At least you can give Godzilla's Revenge credit for having some original monster action and a creative spin on trying to blend monster movie elements into children's entertainment. While there may debatably be worse films out there, I despise Gamera the Super Monster on the grounds that it took advantage of people's nostalgia and swindled them by pretending to be a new and original film for children and families in the same year that brought Japan both The Empire Strikes Back and the first ever Doraemon movie.
Number 3. Favorite kaiju movie of the deck? Aid.
Easily Pacific Rim. I already made a lengthy review of this film with Gorizard back when the film came out, just shortly before I ended up joining the Sons of Serizawa podcast. So to summarize my thoughts, Pacific Rim is one of those films that brings out the inner child in me, as I always get giddy with joy whenever I watch this film. The world is fascinating, the characters are endearing, and the spectacle is simply breathtaking. Sure, it's not the most original film out there, but I don't think it needs to be, as it simply takes some of the most well-known tropes of the giant robot subgenre of science fiction and maximizes them for a big-budgeted Hollywood setting, with enough elements to give it its own identity. At the end of the day, Pacific Rim is a movie that keeps me entertained on all fronts, no matter what situation I find myself in. Speaking of which...
Number 4. Thoughts on Pacific Rim Uprising?
While there isn't enough to go on for Pacific Rim's sequel, you can bet I'm hyped as hell. On top of having John Boyega in the starring role doing a mean Pentecost impression, we also have the showrunner from the first season of the Netflix Daredevil series as the director. From what we've seen of the new Jaegers, I'm a little saddened that the body types aren't as diverse as the crazy mecha we saw in the first film, as all of them seem to be based on the standard lean and athletic build that both Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka had. However, it makes sense in the context of the Pacific Rim lore that these robots would be pushed further and further towards replicating the human form, much like what we're doing today with modern-day robotics. As long as they each bring something new to the table in terms of kaiju ass-kicking, then all will be well. I just hope they'll get the proper spotlight, unlike what happened to both Cherno Alpha and Crimson Typhoon.
Number 5. Why did you become a YouTuber and not a toll booth operator? People poke fun at him, but it's a noble profession. I went on strike with him a year ago with my ex-wife, who's now deceased.
To put it simply, it looked like being a YouTuber was a lot of fun, and I wanted in on the action. For those of you who haven't seen my 1000 subscriber special, in which I looked back on my 5 years on YouTube, I mentioned that I was greatly inspired by the likes of the AVGN and the Nostalgia Critic. On top of that, I enjoyed talking about and analyzing movies in the same fashion as Corey from Spill.com, Captain Logan from Geekvolution, and Dan from Kaiju Movie Review. So, with an iPhone audio recorder app and Windows Movie Maker, I ended up starting my first string of movie reviews covering monster flicks that I felt weren't getting the proper spotlight, since everyone back then, and still today, always seemed to focus solely on either Godzilla, Gamera, or King Kong. 5 years later, and I'm still having the time of my life making videos, meeting new people, and finding even more new giant monster content to talk about. Now to keep this trend going, I need to tag 4 more Godzilla-based YouTubers with 5 questions of my own. These 4 lucky individuals will be Zazubar, Gorizard, Sapphire Knight Productions, and The Unknown 837. The following questions are: what is your favorite non-Godzilla Toho film? What is your favorite cinematic monster other than Godzilla, regardless of its size and country of origin? What is your favorite piece of original Godzilla-inspired media, not counting fan films, fanfiction, etc.? Which video do you feel the most proud of, and which do you feel you could go back and improve? And finally, which franchise, regardless if it's tokusatsu related or not, are you most interested in getting into? To quickly give my own answers to these questions in a similar fashion to both D-Man and Matt, number 1 for me would have to be Frankenstein vs. Baragon, aka Frankenstein Conquers the World, a bizarre film that puts a fresh new spin on a classic character with all the wonderful craziness and imagination you'd come to expect from both Ishiro Honda and Eiji Tsuburaya. Number 2 is Titanosaurus. I love this monster's vibrant and aquatic design, as well as its evil cackle-like roar and surprisingly tragic backstory that brilliantly mirrors Katsura's in the one film he appeared in. Number 3 is the Firebeast Dorugan comic book series, which depicts the adventures of the title monster Dorugan as he faces numerous foes. The twist here is that these stories all take place in a metafictional universe where Dorugan is a fictional Japanese-American giant monster franchise. So what you're seeing are the quote-unquote movies themselves, including all of the visuals of a tokusatsu production on top of an already fun and action-packed series. Number 4 would have to be my History of Gundam video as my favorite, with my Death Kappa review as the one I wish to revisit. I've been so grateful for all the positive feedback I've received from both fans and non-fans alike on the Gundam video, and I was glad I was able to provide a concise and entertaining guide for newcomers. As for Death Kappa, people always try to defend this movie with, "It's just a parody, man, so lay off it." I was fully aware that this was a parody, and perhaps should have made that clearer from the start. To me, it's not only an unfunny parody, but it's one that belittles the giant monster genre and feels like it came from a mean-spirited state of mind, as most of the jokes either have nothing to do with the genre, or they're ones that are either overplayed, or have been done better in other giant monster parodies like Gehara, the dark and long-haired monster. Seriously, we don't need to go back to the obvious wireworks every 2 minutes. And finally, number 5 is the Super Sentai franchise. Already being a Power Rangers fan since I was a toddler, I was always curious about the original Japanese series that this show spawned from, ever since I discovered it back in high school. At the time of this recording, I've only watched a good chunk of Kyoryu Sentai Jurenja, and would love to continue exploring this franchise further. It's all the fun of Power Rangers, with none of the stock footage restrictions and full creative freedom. Thank you very much everybody for tuning in, and a big thanks to D Man1954 for including me in this experiment. Until next time everybody, take care.